Ladies and gentlemen, situation between US and China doesn't look that good, and the futures market for the stock market is now reflecting a decline in anticipation of more hostility, but yet in the horizon, there's some good news. So watch till the end. Meanwhile, I have to grumble about some comments made by US about our founding Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew. Let's watch on. These are my usual disclaimers. This is not financial advice, and let's go. So the stock market futures today look down as China says that US has seriously undermined trade truce. So there's a lot of accusation, finger pointing at each side. So it started with Donald Trump finger pointing at China and saying that US has been a nice guy, he has been a nice guy, but China basically totally violated the deal made in Geneva. And now Beijing is pushing back and say that, basket, you are the one who actually caused all the problem. And now a lot of finger pointing. This is the developing news. In the mild case, we see some gentle fall in the stock market. In a big case, if it re-erupts and then invalidate all the truce that has been made earlier between US and China, then we could potentially see a very severe fall in the stock market. So this is a developing news. Please hit subscribe. Once I detect there is a change of tone of in any way, I'll go live and once you hit subscribe, you get to watch it live. So US and China tension are flaring up again, and the stocks futures are now falling as Beijing denies that they violated the recent trade deal and pushing back against Donald Trump accusation made last week. Chinese Commerce Ministry said that it was the US that seriously undermined the truce. He alleged that Washington has introduced multiple discriminatory and restrictive measures such as export control guidelines for AI chips and revoking visas for Chinese students. That is true, okay? And I was told without verifying at this point of time that Xi Jinping's daughter is studying in Harvard. So if this visa for Chinese student revoking comes through, then maybe she has to go back home and things like that. It's a very complicated environment. So stocks across Asia and Europe also saw modest losses. Steel and car stocks got an extra knock after Donald Trump said that he would double the tariff from steel and aluminium to 50%. And I already announced yesterday night that in my live stream that the European Union is prepared now to impose countermeasures against Donald Trump's tariff. So you see, tensions are building up again, and that's not good for a stock market. So the S&P 500 futures right now is registering a 0.5% point, and the Nasdaq is registering about 0.7 point. Now this is still considered noise, but it kind of indicates that the market is not very comfortable. Now I want to switch a little digression to say this is something I'm not very pleased, and I think a lot of Singaporeans are not very pleased as well. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth compares Donald Trump with Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew, okay, or rather founding Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew. And this is what he says, okay? He says that Donald Trump is likened to the founding Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore. He said that both of them are historic men. That part is true. They are historic for different reasons, not the same reason, Mr. Defense of Secretary Defense. Like the late Prime Minister, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, our current US Prime Minister Donald Trump approach is grounded on common sense and national interest. Okay, I'm not too sure it's common sense. I'm more like uncommon sense. He said a Shangri-La dialogue which gathers key defense leaders across the world. Mr. Lee serves as the country prime minister for 3 decades, and Mr. Hegseth praised his sage leadership and strategic vision. That's what common sense policies can achieve, and that's what precisely Donald Trump vision is all about. Ganasai, okay? Who the hell are you to compare your president with our prime minister? I think there is no comparison. So at the 2025 Shangri-La dialogue, okay, he actually said that both leaders are historic men, shared a pragmatic, common sense approach to governance, emphasized national interest and a willingness to challenge outdated paradigm. Okay, he praised Mr. Lee Kuan Yew's transformative leadership. Notice how he built Singapore into a global hub of finance and innovation. He suggested that Trump's foreign policy mirrors Lee Kuan Yew's policy and style by prioritizing sovereignty, mutual self-respect. Are you sure US got mutual self-respect? And engagement through commerce rather than conflict. Yeah, sigh, pui. Yeah, you are sorry. It's not very becoming of me as a financial educator use such language, but I cannot help myself. Okay, he says that Trump engagement is through commerce rather than conflict. 这个头脑沙拉不 So he also said that both leaders refuse to accept any paradigm that makes conflict inevitable, highlighting a shared preference for practical solution over ideological rigidity. I think there's no comparison, and we all know that. Well, there are a lot of social media comments, and someone said that Lee Kuan Yew is an internationally respected builder of country, and Trump is an American president surrounded by controversy. Comparing Trump to Mr. Lee Kuan Yew is like comparing instant noodle to fine dining. Yeah, size bao look see. Who dare? How dare you compare our founding prime minister to Trump? So I thought there was an earthquake. Mr. Lee Kuan Yew is rolling his grave. He's so angered that he's about to come back to life, things like that. I thought that was quite funny. So I think that most Singaporean will be quite upset with, or maybe even amused by some of this nonsense that Secretary of Defense said. So I think to put a fair comparison, okay, uh, Donald Trump Donald Trump and Mr. Lee is quite different. So Donald Trump clearly is confrontational and rely on charisma and media dominance, and decision go against common sense, where Mr. Lee Kuan Yew really emphasized a lot on pragmatism, technocratic, and the long-term planning, and well planned. Both are very tough people, that's without doubt. Donald Trump relies on a lot of tax cut and deregulation, okay, and he pushed an American first strategy. Now, clearly, Lee Kuan Yew has transformed our country from a third world to a first world and ensure a clean and efficient government and no corruption. This side of Trump's institution, I'm not too sure about corruption. Okay, and of course, even the former President Obama actually said that Lee Kuan Yew is someone who triggered the Singapore economic miracle. So just to compare, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew has been 30 years, well loved by all Singaporeans. Trump, I think at least half to two-thirds of the country now don't like him, and he has survived two assassination attempt. So I think there's no comparison. Well, fortunately, between China and US right now, there is a likelihood that President Trump and President Xi Jinping is going to talk soon, especially on the minerals deal dispute. And to be frank, in the history, both of them were on talking terms. Okay, I seriously think that Trump like Xi Jinping. I don't think Xi Jinping like Donald Trump, and I think there's some mutual high level regards. I don't want to use the word respect, regards. Okay, but both of them to come together, I think there's a chance to talk and settle things. So, US President Donald Trump and President Xi Jinping are likely to meet soon to iron out issues, including a dispute over critical minerals. That is a statement made by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and what they're accusing of each other doing is to roll back tariffs, trade restriction on critical minerals. What China is doing, they are holding back products that are essential for the industrial supply chains of India, of Europe, and that's what not a reliable partner does. Bessent said in an interview with CBS, pot calling the kettle black. Trump and Xi Jinping are likely to talk soon, but no dates has been set. So before we get so happy, unfortunately right now no dates has been set. But in the most optimistic case, they could have a talk as early as this week. So we don't know, right? And there's something always happen out of a talk. Everybody are so positive, and later always turn out the hot air. In this dialogue expectation, I think we got to take it with a pinch of salt, because Trump has a habit of planning dialogues that doesn't happen, and Trump is fixed on having the idea of having a dialogue to solve the problem. China may not feel that way. So if one side feels that it can solve problem and one side don't feel they can solve problem, I don't know what will happen. And currently right now, China is feeling emboldened by the US. They have minerals, raw earth metals, and this is highly needed in defense and the industry. China holds 80% of the global supply, and US have currently right now a weakening country. Not say China don't have, but China right now is more willing to hold ground rather than US. And and right now already there are tariff exclusion that's given by US, and that deadline has already been extended to 31st of August. This includes some industrial material, medical equipment, blah blah blah. So most analysts actually think that this is a short-term solution, and the agreement that they have in Geneva doesn't solve the root issue. These root issues are much bigger, stem on strategic disagreement and an insecurity on US side and an ambition by Chinese side to have a stick in world leadership. So all these are not going to be resolved soon. My take of the whole thing is this: I don't think there will be a quick resolution between US and China. And at best, what we can hope for is no escalation. That is already very good. As long as there's no escalation from where we are right now, the stock market will continue to have a gentle, upward climb. Now, I think that the Donald Trump Xi Jinping summit, where they both meet, should be able to solve some issues. Or what most of the big leaders meeting, when before they meet, the ground level already start talking and kind of handshake quite a lot of things really. So if there's going to be a meeting, most likely things could have happened. And I want to repeat that the stock market, especially globally diversified index like S&P 500, NASDAQ, all this, they have survived bigger crises than this, and I think they will survive this as well. But however, this is a developing news. Let's watch and see whether things will unfold in a positive, negative way. Remember, hit subscribe. Once I detect that there is a evolution of new development, I will let you all know on the fly. So I'll see you when that thing happens. Thank you and goodbye.